You want to make sure that after I finish this book,
better give me some
yeah,
answers.
better give me something. I'm not gonna burn. Welcome back to another episode of Wise and Shine. Every Monday, we hope to join you on this journey to work to kind of just give you a little bit of insight so that you are more prepared for your life and develop a little bit further. Of course, we were right on latest fashion trends and latest interesting topics. And joining me today is
Dawn from Budget Babe.
And this is Eric. They call me Mr. Positivity.
I thought it was Mr. Sensible
Every
from
episode.
the last
That was last week,
episode.
right?
Oh,
It's
last week Mr.
different
Sensible, this
facets,
week.
you know.
Then next week is what?
I don't know. Depends on the topic.
Okay, fair point. And I am your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And today we are gonna talk about one classic topic in personal development, right? Because why did I want to bring up this topic? Because I've just seen so many people recording TikTok videos telling me, "Oh, you should read this, you should do that." You know, like 10 things among the 10 things you can do to improve your life. You should do this, and I'm like, really? So the topic today is: do self-help books work? Yeah, and we're gonna roll with Mr. Positivity.
Actually, you have a disclaimer. I'm in the education industry. I'm in the personal development
He's
industry.
the one producing those content that you
So
just
take my advice with a pinch of salt, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, but the question, my answer would be, if self-help books really do work, then everyone will be a multi-millionaire with six-pack abs.
Wow. Wait, then why do I listen to you? Then why do I watch? You know, like yeah.
So do you have the
Precisely.
six-pack app? Are you
Yeah,
a
yeah.
multi-millionaire?
And I'm actually hoping that I can change the personal development industry, because the thing is this, they always say that knowledge is power, right? And I disagree. I don't think knowledge is power. I think applied knowledge is power. Okay, so there are two ways to answer that question, but direct answer is that I don't think it works unless the receiver is open to change and the environment is conducive for that change to happen. If these two things doesn't happen, then the self-help book is really just a talisman that you can put on your bookshelf to make you feel better about yourself.
To inspire you.
Or at least you feel like you have done something.
Yeah, I think to re-establish or amp up the context of why I wanted to bring up this topic, right? Because I've been seeing a lot of influencers, putting up content like that, right? You should read this book and why, or there are 3 things you can do to improve your life. Number 1 is to read daily, and I'm like, I'm not a reader. Like, I don't really read. I create podcasts for a reason, right? Like, I'm an audio learner. I learn on the go, and there are more ways and more to go about, learning. And of course, I used to be quite an avid reader of self-help books until I read enough to realize they're all saying the same shit, right? At some point, most of them are propagating the same ideas, and there's a little bit of a trendiness in these kind of ideas. Like when an idea is popular, all the books will be about that thing. And is that really how you should think about things? Is that how you should shape your learning? I think that's kind of where I want to move towards. Yeah, because sometimes your ideas don't need to be trendy. In fact, the evergreen ones are the great ideas,
Well, I'm an advocate of learning. I do agree with you that not everybody has to read a book to learn, because like you said, there are 3 types of learners, right? I mean, audio, visual, kinesthetic. If you're talking about should we read books or should we learn, then obviously the answer is yes. Right? Because the more you
That's
learn,
why I
the more
never
you
asked that question.
So his criticism on books only.
No,
books,
specifically self-help books. I think self-help, like I said, self-help books is trendy. There's always a trend, right? Like now, mental health is everything. It's like all the books about mental health. How to work less, work-life balance. There's a certain trend, right? And this is essentially them riding on the cultural wave. Because they need to sell books, right? So now you write something like, just go and work your ass off. It's like, maybe we're not sell as well, right?
Nobody will buy.
Yeah, nobody will buy. It will be like bestseller, then discount rack, right? It'll be on the discount rack.
It'll be a free gift.
Yeah. So there's always some sort of trend, and a lot of the ideas inside are repetitive, and a lot of the ideas inside are not very context lah. Sometimes, right? Like, it's always sounds so good, but it really doesn't apply in my life.
I actually agree and disagree that it all starts to sound the
GP
same.
tutor come already lah.
Let's hear
You
it.
invited a GP teacher on your podcast,
come. Tell
No,
us.
but because right, I think because I read a lot, I do notice that there are some similarities, some things that are always repeated that are the same, but every book has a difference. And I think the difference comes from the author's perspective and the lens that they're writing the book with. And that's where I learned the most on. Yeah. So after a while, you see, when you read one thing one time, it may not stick. But if you read 10 self-help books and you read that same phrase 10 times, you start to realize, okay, these are important, I better pay attention. And then it really starts to stick. At the same time, you can also learn the complementary things that come with that main message, and you benefit from that. Whereas I think for you, right, you focus a lot on that main message only. So people who do that feels that what's the main focus of this book? It's just this one.
I know Reggie. Reggie is a very meta learner. Okay, what's a meta learner? He doesn't just want to learn the...
Namaste.
No, I mean, we have a long chat about it, right? That he doesn't just want to know what to do, but he wants to know how you arrive at that. And what's your thought process that lead you there? Which is why I feel we need to segregate self-help books. There are different categories. So self-help book, there's how-to. There is autobiographies and biographies, right? And there's also thought leadership. The books like the likes of Adam Grant and Simon Sinek, that they're always coming out with original thought. That's why they're called thought leaders. They lead with thought, right? So
I'm not sure they're very original, but okay. Please continue. Yes.
So I feel that when it comes to self-help books, if it's how-to, then I just pick and choose one and try it on. It's like advice, right? Try on for a size. You can judge a book by its cover. If the cover is attractive enough, if there's enough, if you look at the source of material, like this guy has the expertise and it's backed up with a little bit of science, even though I question whether is it really science or pseudoscience.
Every research have 10
But
other research
if it's how-to, you can't go wrong with how-to, because the best way to judge a how-to book is to try and see you can get results or not. Where it gets tricky is the autobiographies, because autobiography, you know, right, is written by the author himself. So that's where it's like learning someone's backstory. You probably want to take it with a pinch of salt.
Actually, you wouldn't count autobiographies as self-help book.
I will put them as a
you won't?
tangent.
Yeah.
I'll put them as a tangent.
You put it as what?
As a tangent.
A tangent.
They are trying to appeal to the same audience, but it's not really self-help books. You know what I mean?
Okay, fine. We'll put that out.
Yeah.
Then I think makes our conversation
I'll
easier.
categorize self-help books as books that you would pick up or buy, because from the title or from the synopsis, you feel like you could learn a few things from it.
Okay.
And you want to learn it. So that's key. So you go in wanting to learn about sales, for example. You pick up a sales self-help book. You go in wanting to learn how to improve your communication. Then you go and read the, Dave Carnegie and all of that stuff. Yeah.
But that's where the scary part is, right? You see, if I pick up a self-help book because I just want to learn, then good luck. There's no results, right? Because learning, if you don't apply the learning, then there's no results.
But that willingness to first learn is step one.
No,
That's
because I agree
Okay.
with Dawn. Actually, it's the context of why you even pick up the book to begin with, right? So I think that's the context that she has set, which I agree, which is when you pick up this book, you are seeking something, right? You want to make sure that after I finish this book,
better give me some
better
answers.
give me something. I'm not gonna burn. But there must be something here that's gonna help my life, or at least answer the questions that I want to answer, But where I come from is half the time is saying the same thing and doesn't always work.
You pick up the wrong books.
So then,
which bookstore you go?
Okay, so then what kind of books will do you think really work? And how do I then deceive picking up some of these books?
I think you have to read and It's hard. You can judge from the cover that does like 20% of the job, but ultimately reading it, then you'll really figure it out.
I have a kind of a reading hack. Usually before I buy a book, I will actually go to Blinkist. I've subscribed to Blinkist.
Because
in some authors...
Not
sponsored. They should.
They should,
because sometimes
yes.
I feel the author has a lot of fluff, right? Because they have maybe a book deal and they have to have 236 pages. But actually whatever they want to say can be summarized in one page.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I feel that the way to cut the BS and get the essence is to just read Blinkist, because Blinkist summarizes only 10 things. Every book is just 10 things you can pick up from that person. And then I'll take that 10 things and I'll say, hey, that's point number 5 is new. Then maybe I'll buy the book and then I will read that particular chapter.
So will you then only read that chapter? Or
Yes,
will you go and read the others as well?
If I feel that the others I already know and I'm already applying it, then there's no, like what Reggie said, there's no value already. Right? But if there's somebody challenging my current thinking, someone share a new point of view, I won't mind checking it out.
Is there a personal story amongst you that after you read the book, it benefit you a lot? Specific book and specific story.
So many.
A lot.
What
This
about
hack very good
Yeah,
I'm going to use
Blinkist.
it now. Okay, subscribing.
I got another
sponsor?
shortcut also, which is you guys don't have to love reading books. You just gotta hang out with people who love reading books. because some of us just learn through conversations. And so don't feel obligated that you need to read. I think this whole reading trend came probably from Bill Gates, right? He's one of the most well-known person that actually
Warren
goes...
Buffett also.
Oh, Warren Buffett. Okay, I know Bill Gates because I know he went on a vacation. He would every year 2 or 3 times
That's
he would
what
go
he
away.
say lah.
And okay lah, I
That's what he
mean,
say.
okay. Wow, this guy
So cynical.
yeah.
I'm like, that's why I'm sitting on the opposite side of Mr. Positive,
that's
right?
actually that's true.
Like I'm here
Yeah.
to try to like.
So I think it's popular, like holding a Starbucks cup is popular as part of a brand. So I do agree that some people just like the idea of carrying a book around, right? It's because it looks good as an accessory. But at the end of the day, you don't judge a book by its cover. You judge by the reader, and did the reader apply? And if the reader applied and the person got value, then great, then that's a great book.
Yeah, in fact, right, if you think about it, a lot of the best self-help books that go on to become popular is because people who read it and implemented it then became successful. They recommend the book to more people and then
Word
it just
of mouth.
perpetuates.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a, what do you call that? It's a cycle.
Yeah, lor.
Yeah.
Like my favorite book. Okay.
What's your favorite book? Since
My
you don't
favorite
like
book,
books.
yes.
Which one you like?
My favorite book is this book called The Little Book of Clarity by Jamie Smart. Okay, so it's a very rando book that does not sit in mainstream. But let me share with you how I picked up this book. Okay, so I was working in China for a while, and during my time coming back to Singapore, I had some Hong Kong dollar left, so I flew in from Hong Kong, right? And I was like, yeah. Maybe I won't be coming back. I'm very heartbroken here, right? So I wanna like just finish my HKD, right? So at the airport, I was like, yeah, my octopus card got money. There's some books here. Let me see what is interesting, right? And I browsed around and I saw this book called The Little Book of Clarity, and it's very small, maybe like this size.
That's why it's a little book.
Yeah, that's why it's like, exactly right. If it's like that, I was like, hey, hello, bro.
Hey, but then
yeah.
it has 214 pages, not very little.
But you know what's the best thing? After I bought the book, I went on the plane. I finished reading half of it on the plane itself, right? So and that was amazing because I am not a reader. It takes a lot for me to read. But the very fact is, I agree with you that when I bought the book, I was already seeking something.
You were seeking to declutter.
Yeah, I
it.
was seeking to think a little bit more about life, like what is life about, blah, blah, blah. So when I bought that book, I was like, yeah, it was what it is. So it became functional to me at that point in time. But if today I go back and read that same book, I'll be like, 这个东西, like
no use.
No use, right? So and I think that little bit of nuance is also important because a reader kind of read what they want to read. And it's not always about the book in itself.
I think the intent is important.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want to affirm our current thinking. So imagine, right, I believe in thinking positive. Obviously, I'll gravitate towards books on the art of positive thinking. What if someone comes up with another book called Negative Thinking Actually Makes Your Life Better?
Yeah.
And I actually subscribe to that. In a view of a myriad of emotions, right? Happiness, sadness, anger, envy, grief, whatever. A lot of people subscribe to all the positive one, like happiness, and all this kind of stuff. And to them, it is an endless high. Like they're endlessly searching for the high, and all other emotions become bucketed as negative and like not helpful. But my view is when you're angry, it's a very clear signal that this person has touched your bottom line. If you're grieving, it helps you focus the energy to kind of look back at what has happened. Because only when you grieve can you really go through all the episodes with a fine comb. Right? So every emotion has its function.
Agree.
Yeah.
And it takes a person who's willing to challenge their current thinking to then realize this new thinking, which always goes back. I always feel that it always goes back to the receiver. Does the receiver have a growth mindset? Because if he has a growth mindset, then he's always going to be taking on new beliefs, try it on for a size. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, remove it. So the intent is important because I do know of people who so Reggie comes into books because he wants to find a solution.
Yeah.
So
that's the only reason I read, I don't casually read one. Yeah, it's like I got problem, I go find a book, or I find a few books. That's why I will read. So when my life got no problem, I don't really read. You know that?
But that's also because you are willing to implement. Right? But some people, maybe they just read because they like the idea that they are seeking help. But later when they realize the solution is inconvenient, then they say, this book doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because they're not willing to face the demons or not willing to face the facts. So I will not judge the book.
I get that.
I feel that every book has its value. The matter is whether the receiver is open enough to receive that value.
Fair, I do get that, and I do know people that drown themselves in books, similar to how people drown in games. They drown in something. It's a form of escapism, right? It's a medium to just keep learning and keep reading and you know,
Because they feel like they're doing something.
Yeah.
But it's like sitting on a rocking chair hoping you go somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to put this question out to Mr. Positivity, like how what is one book, you know, that people
so
should
difficult.
read? Okay, not endorse, not endorsing.
I feel so pressured when you say that people should read, right?
No, okay. Well, let me set you the context, right?
Okay.
If people want to have the growth mindset, you
Oh,
know, okay. So if people want to have the growth mindset and they're listening to today's podcast, and Mr. Positive is going to give you one book that you should kind of embark on, right? Start. So I give you the context, right? Growth mindset, and to start, because I know as you become more advanced, right, a lot of the starting books become very lame, right? So you kind of go to the next level. So someone wants to start and adopt the growth mindset. What is one book they should read?
I actually would recommend this book by Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has this book, beautiful yellow-black book called Tribe of Mentors. And I used to give away this book. This book costs a lot of money though. It's about like $35, $36.
right?
Very thick book.
Yeah.
But I tell you, the premise of the book is amazing. So what he did is he created 13 questions. So for example, a question is, with $100, what's the most valuable thing that you have bought with $100? What is one mistake that you have made in life that have actually turned out to be a apparent failure that turned out to actually be serving you? So he created thoughtfully 13 questions and he asked a total of, I think, 100 plus people. Sportsmen, politicians, authors, thought leaders, philanthropists, all kinds of people, right? And I love that book because it actually trains me to have diverse thinking, that the very same question, everybody answers it differently. So if you want to challenge your own growth mindset, take that book, you know, and this is how I read it. I don't read from one page to another page. I take the book and I say, okay, today, what advice do I want to have for myself? And I just flip. And then I'll see that question, and that question might be, what is one stupid advice that people always give you that actually doesn't work? And then I'll see who's the person giving it. Oh, he is Warren Buffett, or he's somebody. Okay, I'm going to read it. Oh, wow, actually this is interesting. And I'm done. Bite-sized learning.
Did he interview the poor and the unsuccessful?
No.
No.
It says short life advice from
She's
the best in
good, leh.
the
Oh my God,
You're like
world.
searching on
Just
the
like,
fly.
Google. Yeah.
No, because I feel like I want to read that book after
Yeah,
you
it's
said it
bite-sized
already.
life advice, and I
Yeah.
feel like wow, because I can't access these 100 plus people who are billionaires, philanthropists, and sports people. But I would love to know how they think, because I really do believe that how you think is what determines the output of your life.
And this book gives you an insight into their mind, which is what every
Yes.
book is, really.
Yeah.
Especially for self-help books.
But it's easy because it's not theoretical; it's very practical.
And that's why I asked a question, because the self-help book has a skewed coverage. They always cover the successful people, the people that are doing very well in blah, blah, blah. But we must all understand that in every system, certain people will perform a little bit better because of the skill sets and the ideas and the resources that they have. They will outshine everyone. But that doesn't mean that the wisdom only come from these people. There are many other people that they have a lot of other ideas that are totally not covered in the self-help book space, right? Because it don't sell, ma.
No, that's where the
Right.
science comes in already. Like, for example, there's this book called The Laws of Human Nature. Love all his books. He's the one that wrote the book of Art of War, Power, Principle of Seduction, and then he wrote that book, Human Nature. That's science, or at least you can argue it's not. But he studied his source material is always from ancient times. So he studied a lot of the ancient philosophers and thinkers. Stoicism is one of them, and then he derived that 49. And so then it's got independent of where my background is. And I felt that this kind of books then would be nice to try for a size.
Hey, interesting.
Now I feel like reading that also.
Yeah, amazing books. You can read the one. If you guys are in
Teacher say must read
corporate,
more.
if you're in corporate, read the book on power. But if you just want to generally have a good life, like have an easier time with human beings, then read the Human Nature one. Wow, that was really, really powerful. Heavy read though, so just read one law a week maybe. Yeah.
Interesting. Dawn, what about you?
Oh, don't ask me the growth
Well,
mindset
no,
one,
it's like,
because I
just
cannot.
Give one book.
Yeah, what's the book?
Give one
Yeah,
book.
any,
and
any book, okay.
contextualize why did you pick up this book, and who should read this book? Like, who is searching for what, and why should they read this?
Yeah, so I know everyone listening to this, if you know me, you're going to think I'm going to recommend a finance book. So I shall not recommend a finance book.
I would have
Yeah.
recommend some. Or just listen to Financial Coconut lor.
I mean, we're already here. We're already here.
White and
yes,
Shine
yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I think for me, right, the best or the most impactful self-help books differ at when you ask me that question.
Yes,
Okay,
of course.
fair.
Yeah, because what I'm seeking and what he has given me at different points in time differ, right? So
Yes.
when I was in my 20s, I read a lot on sales and communication because I was trying to learn how to do this better as a, fresh grad, new workforce. You must learn how to do that. Branding, career, and then personal finance as well, investing. But then now in my 30s as a parent, I'm reading a lot of parenting books. And right now, one that I feel has really left an impact in the recent years, it's actually this book called Surrounded by Idiots, written
Nice
by Thomas Erickson. Yeah, and he has a series of books that happened after that, but I think this very first one is phenomenal. Okay, it basically describes the 4 behavior types of people by sorting them into colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. It's similar to DISC. Yeah, people who are familiar with this philosophy would know. But I actually learned this, and when I read this Surrounded by Idiots, I found this to be even more accurate
Okay.
when it comes to reading people. Because, for example, right, and what is more valuable is not just knowing what color that person is. What it helped me at that point in my life is, after learning how to discern, right, I realized it was easier for me to manage and talk to certain people, because by understanding what their color is, and then the book does tell you how to handle that, it made everything so much
But why
easier.
idiots? Like, why did he use the word idiots?
Oh, I forgot.
Because
I had to
need to
reread the
sell.
book.
Because need to sell. Always remember.
So people
self-help
do
book-
judge the book by its cover.
Of course.
Yeah.
I have friends who work in publishing. Is that the cover is important because that's the
It
only
is.
thing that is right up there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
The clickbait.
yeah, it's very important.
But I think if there's one book that I think everyone should read, not just finance, right? This book is really important.
Surrounded by Idiots.
Yeah, relationships, right, will be relevant in every stage of your
course.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. Like my husband last time cannot click with blue people. So blue are those who are very facts driven, very statistic, always will Google that kind of thing. So you can tell a lot of critical thinking.
That's you are.
They don't get convinced by hype or marketing, but by facts. So they like to make their own decisions. Once I understood that, whenever I recognize a blue person, I just do minimal selling. I only talk about the facts. And I let people decide for themselves, because they like to feel like they made the decision. They're smart. You cannot say, I help you make a decision. Right? You must empower them that way. Whereas on the other hand, the yellow person is like a peacock. He needs the attention. So the more you sell him on the idea that he will get famous, or a lot of people will love him for it, the more he would want this solution. Yeah, and it's amazing. It's not just about selling. It's even when you work with the person, when you know what triggers them. The book also talks about triggers. Then you don't do what triggers them up. So you will always be in a good relationship with them. So if we bring it back to 3 weeks ago, we talked about can you befriend your boss, right? If you can recognize what your boss color is, you know what not to do, so he will always like you. And you will know what to do to make him shine and feel revered. So if your boss is not a yellow person, you put him on stage to talk, he hate you for life. First person to fire is you. Yeah, and I think this has really shaped the way I interact with people a lot. I find that I'm drawn very much to people who are yellow and who are red, because naturally yellow people are very popular. But when you know roughly what color each person is, right, then you also know what you can learn from them better.
I'm just very fascinated. You see, like, this is what we want in readers, right? That she just doesn't just take it on. She challenged it. She tried for a size, and she internalized it. Many years later, she can still remember.
Yeah, I read this book like 5-6 years ago.
And so to her, that self-help book works because she's willing to play her part to internalize it, learn it, use it, internalize it.
Yeah.
So it takes two to clap.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I think
does.
eventually, as you pick up more books and you learn more things, some of these old ideas may fade out.
Or
Right?
integrate
Yeah,
it.
or integrate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or evolve over time,
Yeah.
right? And it's not about just holding on to whatever you have for the longest time, right? And it's kind of move along. Because I think cute side story. I think a few years ago I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a
Of course,
Fuck.
Oh,
Mark
yeah.
Manson.
Manson.
See, again, a negative
Yes.
title.
So it's very attractive, right? Idiots, like, whatever, right? So I read the book, and thank you for speaking over that. I don't need to pee, right?
Oh yeah.
Great, love it. Okay,
Good partnership.
So I was like, yeah, that's like, I was like, yeah, I need this. I care too much about what other people think, you know. And then I told another friend, it's like, hey, you know, you should read this book. And he was like, for what? I really don't care. I was like, yeah, that's it. It's like, okay, I get it now, right?
Yeah, so your friend doesn't need that book.
Exactly, right. So not everyone needs the book, right? And I think that's the beauty of this discussion.
I think when a
today.
student is ready, the teacher will appear. In this case, the teacher is the self-help books.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
So-
being willing to implement that is important because, like Albert Einstein,
yes.
I think a lot of people, right, they expect to keep doing the things that they've already done, and then expecting something to change. But like what you say, why would I go for a course if I wasn't prepared to do something else differently, right? But people read and then they think, no, what I'm doing good enough, I don't want to try. Then they just deem that book as a failure when in fact maybe it's them. Not the book.
Yeah.
But I will also challenge that maybe it's the book that's the failure because it's inability to shape your views or the teacher's inability to shape your worldviews.
I think
Right, so there's also some level of that, right? But I'm not discounting that, you know, there are people that just don't want.
Maybe
to,
I share the perspective from the author side because I come from that era, right?
That's why I cannot say bad things.
No, you feel free to say it. Like, I mean, your audience are discerning; they will know. But you have to understand that back then, when I first entered the PD world, right, the personal development world, I was told to write books, even though I'm totally inexperienced. And I asked them, why must I write a book? Then they came out with some very gimmicky answer. They say, because you want to build your authority, right? What's the root word of authority? Author. Oh, okay, lor. Then I decided to write a book. But back then, because I have no authority, so what I did was I interviewed people, and I wrote my first book on speaking, right? And it really helped. But you must understand, back then, there's not a lot of local authors. But today, you know, everybody's writing something.
Everyone can publish.
And everybody's a publisher right now. Why? Thanks to the mobile phone. So I think that the quality of the books, podcasts, videos needs to be higher. Regurgitating what other people say is not going to get you anywhere anymore. Because we already, like your friend said, I already know it. So if the book can share the science behind common knowledge, that will be value. Because some people just are inquisitive. They want to know the basis. If the book can challenge your old thinking, that will be very valuable as well in current world. If the book can explain why things are the way it is and tell you what to do to prepare for the future, that will be a very valuable book as well. So I think as with times, even books need to evolve. Just sharing how-to is not going to be valuable because people now can learn how-to from YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think the how-to era was the
gone.
2000s.
Gone
Right?
Yeah.
True, the
Best of
2010. Yeah, the how-tos.
1990s was
Best
the
99.
you can do it era.
Yeah,
Remember?
yeah,
There was just
yeah.
all this motivational
Correct,
Adam
correct.
Cool time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Then
yeah.
it was the how-to. Now it's the why your life sucks kind of era. Do you feel? Like a lot of books are the negative
There's
titles.
a lot of that. There's a lot
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Interesting. Okay. In closing, any last points you want to share, you know, with our audience today about do self-help books actually work?
I think if you doubt that self-help books work, then you need to be seeking out better books, or you need to reflect on yourself.
Don't
as
go to
to-
discount outlet, right? don't go to the discount section. Wow, this one very cheap. I'm gonna buy this book. There's a reason why it's there, right?
No, I think it's the author also, and I feel like you can also learn from lesser known authors.
sure.
Yeah, but it's just that they may not get the traction it
The
needs
hype.
to make that book go viral or get that awareness in society. But at the end of the day, right, we should be responsible for our own learning. So if you want to learn something, pick up the self-help book that will get you there. If the first book you pick up doesn't get you there, pick up the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then if it still doesn't get you there, then you question like what you say. Maybe I just don't like to read book. I'm an audio learner. Then go for podcast or go for other modes of learning. It doesn't always have to be books per se.
I'm a firm believer that everything in life teaches us something. And the whole purpose is to help us evolve. So I hope that every one of you listening here would always be a seeker of learning. Like you have to be a learner because every time you grow, you evolve, you become bigger, right? But you can be flexible in the way you want to learn. You can learn through books, you can learn through podcasts, you can learn through videos, you can learn through having conversations with people. And as long as you stay open to learning, you would see yourself growing tremendously and you will accelerate.
Great. And in closing, I just want to say that, I sound like I don't really support self-help books, right? And the reality is I did start somewhere, right? So I did read some of these books. Eventually, the books became too diluted for me and, I had to read more complicated stuff. But hey, if you're new to a vertical, you're just starting to pick up something, those are very low touch points that you can just kind of pick up, and just kind of grind along. And eventually you will figure your own thought processes with some of these insights from some of these books, although, I still think they're very diluted.
I think the beauty of self-help books also is that it offers you learning for very cheap.
Yes.
Because how else would you normally learn? Like you would learn through a mentor, but you may not always have access to that mentor or that Zai person.
Yeah,
or you go for courses which cost thousands of dollars
Yes,
when you can actually learn a snippet of it, or sometimes even the entire course, depending on who's teaching it, from a book. Yeah, and in personal finance, I always say that to people, like, if you're broke, you want to learn from free, that's Google. You need to be curating your own syllabus. You want to learn from a curated syllabus because you find it too noisy, you don't know how to do your own learning and structure, then learn from a course, right? Because you can learn from books, but they're all very messy and some of them are outdated. You go and read the various investment books, some of them no longer apply in today's world. They tell you things like, you should buy companies with big assets, and then like, what about software companies with no assets? They're the new gem, they're the new gold. So you need to be able to discern. And if you are new not a lot of cash, self-help books are the cheapest way to level up.
Fair.
Then after you level up, then you go and take other stuff.
Exactly, yes, fair. And I always tell people, the seafood doesn't come up from the mountain to tell you I'm good. Right? You have to climb up the mountain to look for the seafood. So maybe the first step is to read a book. Okay, with that, I hope you learned something useful today and joining us every week on Wise and Shine. Check out our other shows and we will see you next week. Bye, guys.